Hello, greetings. Welcome to Attaining the Second Cognition. This is Doug Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, when we look at the new paradigm concept, we're faced with the huge potential of having to create a new way for humanity to progress in their cognitive and cultural evolution as a species. In order to accomplish this, as we all move forward into the second cognition, we're confronted with the truth that we can no longer do things the way the world operates in the first cognition. This realization is the topic of this discussion, which is, you are not going to change the system from within. There are millions of well-meaning people worldwide who are seeking to develop new systems of community that can take the place of the systems currently in place as these systems start to collapse of their own weight. The more people become aware of the failings of the entire consortium, the more they are seeking solutions for what appears after we see a global financial collapse, which is a very strong likelihood if one bothers to read the financial news. The World Bank is continually projecting downward growth estimates, and the banks are already initiating negative interest rate scenarios to compensate for the fact that too much fiat money is in circulation to keep the financial house of cards intact. The consortium bankers have always used wars as a means to prop up their fiat money systems whenever the money starts to become too worthless. They manipulate governments into war scenarios and force governments to pledge the assets of their nations as collateral to support their fiat money schemes so these nations can be put to war against each other. At this point of our history, this scenario has been played over and over so much that our children and grandchildren are indebted to this system before they are even born. They are chattel to the international banking and monetary systems. If you are wondering why we are watching a seeming crescendo leading to a potential World War III, then you must understand that the banking part of the consortium has printed so much funny money that a global war is the only option they have left to once again prop up their bullshit financial perfidy. War is probably the most profitable business venture these psychopathic creatures engage in. With this information in hand, there are a lot of people around the planet trying to come up with solutions in light of this information. In South Africa, you find people like Michael Tellinger, who is seeking to get into the political arena with his Ubuntu party to try and make some positive changes in advance of what appears to be an inevitable financial crisis on the horizon. Just look up Michael Tellinger and Ubuntu on YouTube to see what he is proposing. You should find it highly informative at the very least. Other individuals have taken to the YouTube airways or other platforms to wake people up, and many ideas that they are proposing about becoming more community active by getting to know your neighbors so you can have people with whom to band together if things go sour. These are not bad ideas overall, but within all of these ideas you still find reliance on first cognition thinking where these solutions are being thought out. Many of these people endorse trying to push through legislation in order to change the laws to protect themselves, not much different than Tellinger is doing, by creating the Ubuntu political party in South Africa. As well-meaning as all these people are, they are still seeking first cognition solutions, hoping for some kind of relief from consortium tyranny by joining in consortium-controlled political institutions seeking to bring about change from within. The relief these people are seeking is through the first cognition idea that you can change the system by becoming part of the system and therefore expect to see any kind of real change. At the end of the day, folks, no matter the good intentions of these people, they are still playing within systems that the consortium created and fully control. How can one fix a broken system? By utilizing the tools that the very system you are trying to fix has provided. The body politic worldwide has become so infested and corrupted that trying to fix the corrupt system from within that system of corruption is a futile effort. In most governmental settings, it is the money interests who get the ear of the politicians, for it is the money people who pay for their election campaigns. The average Joe or Mary in the street have no voice in this elitist political process, no matter how much they may believe that getting legislation enacted with no money to back their ideas seems feasible. Millions upon millions of dollars get thrown around funding campaigns of corrupted political misleaders that will serve the system that is placing them there. The entire voting scam is simply an illusion to make people believe that they have a choice. Just look at the current political three-ring circus. Out of 320 million Americans, this is the best we could come up with? I'm not impressed. All of those candidates will serve the money interests of the lobbyists and financiers that prop them up, not the people. Yet still, we have millions upon millions that will fall for the illusion and go and vote for a master, thinking that it will change and things will get better. Moreover, many will try and rally others to join in and support their illusions. You need to get out there and vote. We can really make a difference. People are somehow comforted by believing that they have a voice in this process, but choosing a new master does not make one free. In my video Shamnonymous, we have already illustrated how the anonymous movement is nothing but a political tool to sow dissent against governments among the populace who think that protesting in the street wearing masks is going to bring about any kind of change. It allows them to blow off steam and dwell within the illusion that they did something positive. It's nothing more than that. I ask my viewers and listeners to point me to one single example where any of these mass protests has changed anything in the political spectrum. Point me to any piece of legislation that doesn't suit the consortium's own agenda that has been put forth by these mask-wearing stooges protesting in the street. If it wasn't for the illegal hacking into government databases by a handful of hackers, Anonymous would be seen for the meaningless joke that it is. What people have to realize is the fact of repeating history, as illustrated by the symbol of the phoenix rising from the ashes mythology in all of the consortium control. The origin of the phoenix mythology goes back to ancient Egypt and the mythical Bennu bird, which rises from the ashes of its own demise. What people fail to realize about the mythology of the phoenix is that it is the same bird coming back over and over again, rising from the ashes. It is not a new bird as one hatched from an egg. It is the same old bird reborn over and over again, and the phoenix mythology is pervasive in the esoteric traditions. The truthful story of what the phoenix represents is found when you look at the patterns of repeating history. The phoenix represents the consortium, which moves from culture to culture, destroying them as they go, then rising from the ashes of the civilizations they destroyed to appear again in a different guise to do the same thing all over again with the next culture. This is why the phoenix is such a prevalent symbol in Freemasonry and also through the esoteric and hermetic traditions. Through the use of this symbol, the consortium is telling us exactly what they are doing, generation after generation, with the same vile consortium bird reappearing in different political or religious guises from the cultures just destroyed by being reborn from the ashes, never changing except in appearance. In the future, I'll definitely offer more insight into the phoenix symbology, but this is enough for my viewers to understand the primary hidden meaning of this alleged mystical symbol. It is not remotely a positive symbol. If you listen to the many and varied people who are seeking solutions to what faces first cognition tyranny, most are so cognitively handicapped that they can't see anything beyond first cognition solutions. They seek to get legislation enacted, become political candidates within the consortium systems of control, or become wind-up pawns playing protester, thinking they are somehow going to change the system with which they disagree. If history has shown us nothing else, it illustrates time and time again how the consortium players can take any potentially positive idea and turn it to shit through their manipulations and power of the purse. Once one steps into the political fracas of the consortium without realizing it, they have already admitted that they are slaves to the consortium system of control, using tools provided by the consortium itself to bring about any presumed change. Anyone seeking such solutions in a totally controlled system of the consortium's making is not going to make any real headway because they are stepping into an already rigged game with all the laws, rules, and procedures pre-established by the consortium. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, viewed in this light, do you think any of these ideas are really going to yield anything more than poisoned fruit, regardless of the good intentions of people trying to bring about these changes? Now, I don't mean to come across as Johnny Negative by sharing this information, but we need to pull the blinders off and realize that first cognition solutions are not going to fix first cognition problems. It never has, and it never will, except on a temporary basis. The ego program spoils it all, time and time again, without end. It is nothing but a repeating cycle of errors perpetrated by a hacker program on first cognition consciousness that can see nothing beyond its own mirror image of itself. There has never been any kind of major revolution in all of human history that wasn't orchestrated by people with an agenda. Call that the consortium. They use alleged people's revolts to hide the fact that they were wholly instituted and manipulated by the Phoenix, and the people are merely the cannon fodder used to create the ashes from which the consortium bird rises yet again. The people never win for any real length of time. The consortium always eventually reveals its hand, and tyranny is always the outcome of the Phoenix seeking to destroy another civilization. Tyranny is the calling card of this thing we call the ego. Take into consideration that the ego is a tyrant within the consciousness, and then realize that those behind the thrones of power are the most afflicted by this parasite. The ego craves power, and the most distorted ones are attracted to positions of power, and this has been exemplified throughout known history. Psychopathic egos running around unchecked is sort of like giving a 5-year-old matches and a can of gasoline to play with and acting surprised when the house burns down. As we are in the opening stages of the new paradigm, we would be getting ahead of ourselves to start formulating any type of political solution at this time. That process of unfoldment will reveal itself when it is time. We don't need to put the cart before the horse. We have a long way to go before we arrive at the necessity for alternative solutions on that scale, so it should not be very high on your worry list at this time. Your own cognitive advancement should be first and foremost in your attention. We all have much to unlearn before we can step into learning and developing real alternative solutions to the major first cognition problems. Continuing to rage against the machine is not going to bring about any real positive change, no matter how well-meaning the proponents of these ideas are. Anyone seeking to change the system from within is already cognitively locked into a system for which there are no long-term solutions. It is meant to fall apart. The only way out of this repeating cycle is to create a new model. Anything thought of by people seeking to change the system from within can and will be outplayed by the consortium and its agents. This is why we advocate removing your consciousness from that system of enslavement. If nobody plays that game anymore, then the game is over. Let's play a new game. It's one humanity never played before. It's called freedom. This cognitive war is about energy, not physicality in regard to first cognition thinking. Anytime you contribute your energy into that system, you are feeding the very system you are seeking to advance your consciousness beyond. Playing political games or protesting within that system only continues to feed your energies into that system, and that will keep the first cognition beast alive so long as you continue to do so. You can't move beyond that system of control so long as you keep contributing your energies into keeping it alive. You can wallow in the mud of the political pigsty all you like, and it will never change one goddamn thing because it is a product and proponent of first cognition consciousness. An entire new model must be created, and that can only come about from a new level of cognitive awareness, and this process must and can only be initiated by the individual. Waving placards in the streets, enacting legislation, or voting for the evil of two lessers is never going to work because those things still operate within the system. This current global system is based on cognitive tyranny, and all of the horrible events we see in the world are manifestations of this low level of consciousness projected onto the global stage. How the fuck can operating within that system even ever hope to bring about any kind of new experience? How can operating at the same level of consciousness that created the problem ever hope to fix it? It can't, and trying to use the system to fix the system is an exercise in futility. Why do things never really change, historically speaking? Why do civilizations rise and fall again and again like some kind of historical feedback loop? The reason is because human consciousness stays mired within a level of cognition that is impossible to manifest a new paradigm for human experience. Until that level of consciousness changes, civilizations will rise and fall as symbolized by the phoenix. If you want to see the outer manifested world change, then you must change your own cognitive awareness first. This system is going to fall. It is corrupt beyond measure. It is decadent, it is wholly unsustainable, and quite simply, it just plain doesn't work. Are we merely going to repeat the cycle as we have throughout history, or have human beings had enough of the same old, same old? I contend that I believe that the inability of the majority to acknowledge the challenges and crises that humanity faces stems from a deep inability to embrace the darker aspects of their own psyche. Thus, their darkness is collectively projected onto the global stage by a traumatized, collective, and shattered ego consciousness. Deep, unworked inner psychic trauma manifests in the outer world as breakdown, degeneration, collapse, and chaos, acting as a mirror and reflecting back upon us all that needs healing. Humanity in the first cognition projects its inner trauma onto the global stage, and this is the age where we must resolve this if we are to have any chance of moving forward. We need to purge the idea of external authorities and become self-governing, mature, responsible human beings. The entire idea of external leaders must be flushed down the toilet, and the idea of dependency upon systems of first cognition control must also be flushed, because they're shit. We must once and for all do away with the idea of little old me and big old them. In other words, we must stop being victims. Embracing the rainbow put it this way: if mankind, male and female, is to transcend this seemingly endless chasing of its tail through generations of suffering, then it must stop creating victims and being victims. It must grasp and understand that its purpose is the veneration, education, and development of the awareness of its connection to its source, the tiny computer chip, the segment of creation itself that is their self-awareness. The I am awareness that is who and what each and every human being is. We need to stop identifying with ego labels of I am this or I am that and realize simply that I am. Just look at how egos respond when their beliefs and false identities are put to scrutiny. They become rabid. The divisions are manufactured, and egos buy into the divisions and then fight over these false identities. And until we can shed all of these fabricated identities of what the tiny little ego thinks it is, nothing will ever, nor can it ever change. We fight amongst each other over the stupidest and pettiest ego divisions, while the consortium laughs at humanity's stupidity. All the while, much of humanity buys into the illusion that it is free. Unfortunately, due to the stubborn nature of the first cognition, a major shakeup is going to need to occur to push humanity into taking the responsibility necessary to once and for all shake off this yoke of slavery that has plagued humanity and to move out of victim consciousness. We are facing enormous crisis or enormous opportunity, depending on your perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending time with me yet again and taking your time to listen to Attaining the Second Cognition. This is Doug Michael, and I extend my gratitude and my thanks to any and to all who take the time to open their minds, search for truth, and push forward in their own cognitive advancement. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Huge thank you to all my new subscribers. Truly appreciate it. Thank you once again, and until next time, walk in peace.